else we got? Here's some more. Sex trafficking. Is Peter Nygard the Canadian Jeffrey Epstein? This is from 2020 as well. He's a big fashion house mogul in Canada. All the money in the world, everything he could ever want. And one of those things, it turns out, is an island, just like Jeffrey Epstein, where he keeps women basically as indentured servants and mistreats them. And there's more to the story, of course, but we don't have time. What else have I got? Keith Raniere and the NXIVM thing also involves Claire Bronfman. The Bronfmans are almost royalty in Canada, and they're involved in this. Not only that, but it's rumored that Carlos Salinas, the former president of Mexico, his son Emiliano Salinas, is allegedly a top member of the sex cult NXIVM. And now they're being sued by 80 more people in a lawsuit claiming that the NXIVM cult leaders exposed them to human freight experiments, forced labor, and human trafficking. Yeah, they got a lot of people from Mexico, and they have this thing called Rainbow Cultural Garden. Oh, it's a rabbit hole. So if you're just waking up to the elite pedophile crimes and the human trafficking network that they profit so mightily off of, if you're just waking up to that now, I'm hoping all these rabbit holes, all these clues will make you more curious. Here's one from 1989, The Bombshell That Didn't Explode, with a story about key officials in the Reagan and Bush administration involved in a callboy ring. But look how the press immediately covers it up. The story is intriguing, involving male prostitution and a lobbyist who used parties to promote his business connections and business connections to promote his parties. But is it a government scandal or just a sordid slice of life in a city that happens to be Washington, D.C.? Yeah, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. Just go back to sleep. From that story springs this one, the Franklin scandal. This is one of the things that red-pilled me many years ago. If you haven't looked into it, go look into it. The Senate did appoint an investigator to go investigate this thing. The allegations of a massive satanic child abuse sex ring involving an orphanage and stuff in Nebraska and high-rolling members of that society and of Washington political elite. This guy, Gary Caradori, was investigating it when his plane crashed mysteriously and killing him and his son, by the way. These people have no morals. Of course, they're not going to worry about his son being in the car. Why would they? A person named in the Franklin cover-up scandal, the callboy ring, was Barney Frank. Whatever happened to him? Oh, nothing. He served all the way up till 2018, I think, when he finally stepped down voluntarily from the Senate. Doesn't matter, no, don't worry. I mean, he acknowledged hiring male prostitutes who were living in his house, at least one of them, and doing what there? Who knows? Running their business out of there, it turns out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't tarnish a person's reputation in certain circles. Which are those certain circles? Why, the Democratic National Congress, for example, Hillary Clinton. Look, this is from January 28, 2020. One of Hillary Clinton's top attack dogs, former U.S. Representative Barney Frank, has surfaced as a new flashpoint in the battle between Bernie Sanders and establishment Democrats. Wow. Jeez. They just don't have any morals. And look at all these. There's a big list of cases that were reported. Ritual abuse of children in all of these daycare centers, most of them in the 80s and early 90s. Of course, most of those accused in these cases were eventually freed because what did they say? They said these people are hysterical, they're making things up, they're watching too much TV. None of this is true. Here's the Wikipedia entry about it. Daycare sex abuse hysteria. Nice. Just like they're going to say about Wayfair, just like they said about Pizzagate. And oh yes, Pizzagate, I will talk about that in a second. Here's another one. FBI investigates Presidio child molest case. This involved 60 children at the Army's Letterman Hospital in California. And a guy that is alleged to have been involved in this, but who is extremely litigious, is a guy called Michael Aquino. I have no evidence whatsoever that Michael Aquino had anything to do with it, but I want to show you a picture of him. Here he is. This is Michael Aquino. He is a Satanist, admitted, and he works in the Navy, or he did. And he wrote a book called Mind War, by the way, which was all about psychological operations. Interesting. He kind of looks a little bit like Les Wexner. Remember Les Wexner was supposed to also be investigated next to Jeffrey Epstein? Whatever happened to that? Nothing! And will anything ever? Well, that depends on the press.
Absolutely, and this is a good space to jump in, folks. Hello, it's Messenger Christopher, Spirit World X on YouTube, and of course, I am the Mahdi, the guided one. Now, folks, I would like to let you know that everything you're viewing is not something that was put together by a script. Everything that I show you, I am guided to. These are choices I am given. The shows that I am using to create the conscious, the awareness build up of the problem that you and I face that is created by our minds. What I need to say to you is this. Do not pay attention to the body that you're seeing when you're looking at a human body. Do not look at that body and determine the value and the worth of the frequency of awareness behind it. The value of a person is not found in what begin and ends. The body begins and ends. 1 minute it's soft and supple, and then it's wrinkly and old and bony, and then it's gone. Okay? It's back to dust. You are a frequency that is magnetically converting through this matrix program at this moment. All right? You vibrate on either a lower vibrational, what's called a Gentile frequency, counterbalancing. It's a counterbalancing frequency that realigns the magnetically misaligned frequency of my melanated brothers and sisters, who are actually aligning at the moment. And of course, assisting you beautiful brothers and sisters who came and did a great job of rebalancing by creating the pressure, on the social platform, creating the pressure that was necessary to even bring me to getting down on my knees one day, or not on my knees, but falling to my knees broken as a result of needing to know why I was ready to bust and tired of going on. I want to thank you all. However, I need to let all of you know, whether you're in a rebalancing protocol, fail-safe protocol bloodline, or you're in the melanated bloodlines, I need to let all of you know that you're all the center of the sun. So, stay with me, Crystal Kingdom, and pay attention to the frequency, the vibration. And remember, that's all that matters when you're dealing with any life form on the planet, including the one doing all the scratching on that box over there, which is the mama cat to all my children, my other kittens. All right, Crystal Kingdom, let's move ahead.
Lets people know that this should be investigated.
And thank you for joining me, all of you.
But the press falls down. The press is now the top cover-upper for elite pedophiles. Here's more. Here's another story. The Finders. This is an excellent video about this story from the Conscious Resistance YouTube channel. Turns out that investigation was stopped by who? The CIA.
Conscious Resistance. Continue standing, please.
Cynthia McKinney grills Donald Rumsfeld about DynCorp human trafficking. I'm going to play a couple seconds of this for you.
Mr. Secretary, I watched President Bush deliver a moving speech at the United Nations in September 2003, in which he mentioned the crisis of the sex trade.
Folks, I want to stop for a second. Throughout this program, I've done some talking in respect to the Black Boule, the African melanated individuals who you see on television. Now, in this Matrix program, they play a very significant role in the progression of the buildup of negative energy within the conscious collective capacities of all bloodlines. These individuals stand by our European and our Chinese and Indian and, of course, Asian. Oh, I did say Asian. All bloodlines, of course, that are fail-safe protocol, rebalancing conscious radio frequency protocols here. And they do everything they can to make sure that you continue feeding with your magnetic misalignment and unconsciousness. But most importantly, what you radiate out of you, out of that unconsciousness. While you are being entertained and led to be lower vibrational, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on is at the same time they are doing everything they can to suppress your anger from, and wanting to explode on the system by, of course, giving you a raise. And when you get that raise, you go, oh, yeah, I'm the man still, and I just got a raise, baby. And of course, that, for a week or two, you're straight. 3 months, you're straight. And then, boom, all of a sudden, you see that when you go to the store, you're spending a couple more dollars on the same product that you were just so comfortable with spending money on. And now, the price on everything is raised. So what happens is you find yourself arguing with yourself because these are your consumptive needs that you're taking care of, aren't they? Yes. You don't really want to argue with the people raising the prices because it's the banks, the world banks that are doing that. It's not the store. So you're being kept in a perpetual cycle of false confidence and fear by the individuals who are literally standing next to your unstable, undeveloped, lower vibrational 5 sensory aware controllers. Now, these individuals, we know them as the Black Boule. Now, think about this, because I don't want to just accuse without making any logical sense. But let me ask you this. Think about this. In a society where the melanated man, especially, and the melanated woman have no justice, how is it possible that there is a melanated man or woman sitting on the same justice seat as those who give you and, of course, our other wonderful, beautiful bloodlines in this country who work hard every day to sustain their existences? You have to look deep into your present interaction with these individuals. You have to reconsider your contracts. And this is the moment where your darkness has an opportunity to experience true light. So let's get back to the program, and we'll talk about that shortly.
The president called for the punishment of those involved in this horrible business. But at the very moment of that speech, DynCorp was exposed for having been involved in the buying and selling of young women and children. While all of this was going on, DynCorp kept the Pentagon contract to administer the smallpox and anthrax vaccines and is now working on a plague vaccine through the Joint Vaccine Acquisition Program. Mr. Secretary, is it policy of the U.S. government to
plague vaccine?
That traffic
Interesting.
women and little girls?
Now we have a link between the child traffickers and the organizations that go out to vaccinate the world's children, just like Bill Gates does. That's Bill Gates' bread and butter, vaccinating every child in the world. What kind of access has he got, I wonder? Here's another one. Oprah loved this guy. Oprah loved this guy right up until he got busted for running a baby mill, sex trafficking, sex slave farm, and selling the babies for up to £40,000 before shipping them from Brazil to Europe. Do you think John of God wrote down in his little book, sold one baby, £40,000, shipped to Europe from Brazil? Of course not. He's got to have a way to wash that money. Money laundering. How would he do it? I don't know. Ben Collins, you want to tell me what your guess is? But Hillary was an old hand at it by then. Back in 2008, she and Bill were down in Haiti because of the earthquake. The Clinton Foundation went steaming in there and practically took over the country. I mean, they had the Clinton Foundation going on, and at the same time, Bill Clinton was named the UN Special Envoy to Haiti. So he oversaw all the other contractors that were coming in there. The Oxfam and the Red Cross, etc. And what did they do when they're down there? Well, this is in the Harvard Human Rights Journal. Owning Laura Silsby's Shame, How the Haitian Child Trafficking Scheme Embodies Western Disregard for the Integrity of Poor Families. And does it ever? The Haitian authorities arrested a group of Idaho missionaries for attempting to cross the border into the Dominican Republic with 33 children without papers or authorization. And some of the kids were not even orphans, as it turns out. What happened? Bill Clinton intervened on the behalf of the missionaries. Eventually, the Haitian system decided that none of the missionaries were guilty of illegal activities except the leader, Laura Silsby, who faced a lesser charge of organizing illegal travel. So, have you heard of that? If you're new to all this, you probably haven't. But it's a true story.
I had to calm my cat down.
And it just shows
She's
this
mad at one of her
pattern
children
of the Clintons disregarding human life. You probably know about the Hillary Clinton email scandal, right? Well, during testimony about that, an NYPD officer's notebook was entered into evidence, and one of the things it says in the notebook is Hillary Clinton and Foundation, Crime Against Children. At this point, nobody really knows what that means for sure. But let me tell you what happened. You want to know why they hate Michael Flynn? General Michael Flynn? They're making up all these stories about him colluding with whoever. I don't even know. And they've tormented him and tortured him and bankrupted him and threatened him with jail so many times. They've dragged his court case out for 2 years. It's because he brought the public attention to that note in that notebook. Here's what the spin masters, the pedophile cover-uppers, the Hollywood machine, the MSM machine, here's the type of thing they did.
A lot of uninformed, gullible people fell for the Clinton-Podesta sex ring theory. People like Trump's pick for National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, who tweeted out a link writing, new Hillary emails, money laundering, sex crimes with children, etc. Must read, introducing it, you decide. Okay, then I decide a guy who spreads this bull shouldn't be in charge of national security.
And you hear the crowd cheer? Well, up until Wayfair Gate, the crowd would still cheer. But I'm telling you, that crowd is getting smaller by the day. Like I said, I have a video for you at the end that will show you what I mean. And that's not all. Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, John Podesta, is brothers with a guy called Tony Podesta. And by the way, here's what Andrew Breitbart tweeted about them in 2011. How Prague guru John Podesta isn't a household name as a world-class underage sex slave op cover-upperer defending unspeakable dregs escapes me. He knew back then that sketchy stuff was going on. And so there's John Podesta. Here's his brother Tony Podesta at his house with his wife with his art collection, showing it off to Washington Life magazine. He's proud of it. A headless gold statue in a grotesque position. But that's not all. Here's more from Washington Life magazine. Here's a picture of his art in another room. Look at all these kids seemingly dead at the bottom of a closed-up pool. Here's another one. 2 girls seemingly dead in a marsh in shallow water. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the tip of the iceberg. But it might go further than art. Do you remember in 2007, a little girl called Madeleine McCann was kidnapped? It's a very sad story. She was in Portugal where the parents went missing. Here in 2013, they released the police sketches of the suspects they think were involved. I'm just saying. This is John Podesta and Tony Podesta, and these are the sketches. Now, because this is all bubbling to the surface,
Can't make that up.
all of a sudden Portugal thinks they have someone who did the murder. They've arrested someone, a drifter. How? It doesn't look like these guys. Anyway, could it be to get the real suspects off the hook? I don't know. But these are the type of people Hillary Clinton not only hangs around with, but hires to manage her campaign. The Podesta brothers are ready to cook for Hillary. That's in 2015. And the cook thing is a little creepy. I wonder what they were going to make. Pizza? I'm not going to get right into Pizzagate. But this guy, James Alefantis, figures centrally in Pizzagate. And even if he never did an actual crime, what they did in that restaurant was sick. It's just sick. I've done videos on it. There's millions of videos on it. You should go have a look, because Wayfair Gate, hopefully, is letting new people see that these things aren't the crazy conspiracy theories that the mainstream media says they are. People looking at Wayfair Gate are saying, no way, there's something going on here. And they're watching as the media is saying, we've confirmed with the CEO of Wayfair that he is not child trafficking. He's not trafficking at all. It's all just a big misunderstanding because he says so. So drop it, go away, nothing to see here. And then, of course, they get mocked. They get lumped in with the far right, just like the rest of us have always been lumped in with the mysterious far right. What are they anyway? I've never met anyone from there. And of course, when it all broke and they mocked us for looking into it and asking the right questions that anybody should ask when we know that children are being exposed to really sick things, what happened? Well, they rallied around James Alefantis and Comet Pizza in D.C. All the D.C. swamp made sure they signed this big poster in support of this weirdo.
Wow.
And then what happened? Donald Trump won the election. These guys, look at how unhappy they are. I wonder why. There's a lot of cover-ups going on, and a new administration might actually figure some of them out. And they did. Look what Michael Flynn tweeted. Look at the EOs that Trump has produced. Look at the busts of human trafficking. The shutdown of Backpage, which cut off a major conduit for their trafficking operation. So you see, they had to go somewhere else. I wonder where they went. I wonder where they might have gone. By the way, interesting factoid. Thanks to Jen here, she noticed that a guy who used to work for the Clinton Foundation also works for Wayfair. Interesting. John S. Kim. It's all coming together, she said. Wayfair Gate, save the children. He worked for the Clinton Health Access Initiative for 3 years. He also worked for Bain & Company. If you look at the board of directors for Wayfair, there's 4 or 5 people from Bain & Company, and there's 4 or 5 people from McKinsey. If you're new to all this, you would have no idea why that's significant. But believe me, it is. It's especially significant considering that officially on the books, Wayfair, the company, has never turned a profit. And yet it gets hundreds